In a production nobody asked for, nobody seems to like, nobody seems to want, and frankly might have some legal issues, Meghan Markle stars in her own show with love, Meghan. So, Meghan, here's my thoughts on this. With love, Meghan. You see what I did with a comma there? I twisted it around to make it my own phrase. So, this is the cringe to end all cringe fests. Now, I watched some of this because I was forced to, because some people asked me for my thoughts on it. And let's just say my thoughts align with the reviews here. Now, this is so bad, it's even got the concern of Netflix bosses who are reportedly worried about the brutal reviews for Meghan's new show. So I'll give you some thoughts on this. If you haven't seen it, you can garner from what I say. If you have seen it, out of morbid curiosity, you probably give me some comments on what I think and whether you agree with me. But first of all, if you like this sort of brutally open and honest talk on some kind of gossip and reviews type thing, we're on Black Belt Secrets, so no one criticizing me here that's come over from Black Belt Barrister. You're on the wrong channel, or the right channel, depending on your frame of mind. Please do subscribe if you like these kind of thoughts, and let's get into it. So Netflix bosses are worried about the scathing reviews of the new show. Insiders apparently admitting that it is not the runaway success that they expected. I'm not really sure how they expected a runaway success from this show, but here we are. Let's start with a few of the critical comments here. Over 1,000 people took to Rotten Tomatoes, which doesn't always get it right, I have to say. I've seen some fairly bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes before, and I found the show quite okay, but on this occasion, I think they're right. Some of the scathing remarks here. But let's start with a positive one. From Amy, right at the top. Just about the only one on screen. This show is fun and relaxing. Meghan is authentic. I'm not sure we were watching the same show, Amy, but let's read on. She wants to please others through surprise and delight details and loves making friends. Now, this is a really interesting point I'll come back to later. I've got a whole list of bullet points I made. I thought if we're going to watch it, I'm going to treat it as a project and make points that I can at least tell you about it, so you might not have to watch it. The bit about making friends is interesting because they're supposed to be her friends, but she doesn't know much about them. Like her makeup artist that she invited there doesn't even know whether he's left or right-handed. But which hand was he doing the makeup with? Anyway, more about that a little bit later. But let's read on Amy's positive review. This is one of those fantastic litmus tests. How do you feel when watching is a reflection of you, not Meg? If you don't, and this tells me it's possibly someone she knows or maybe even written by herself. Who knows? If you don't want to step into a world where you are fed with love and where everything is a little more beautiful, then I would just give you one long hug. What a weird comment. I will watch these shows over and over, and Amy goes on. However, the more, let's say, in my view, realistic comments give it a rather more negative view. Tara says, I've tried not to form an opinion on Meghan due to public persona, but she comes across as disingenuous and irritating. It is unfortunate to say that I find her so unlikable and unrelatable. I would definitely not watch another episode of her new Netflix flop or anything else that she was involved in personally. Graciela, before I say anything about the series, I want to give justice to some of the people invited to be part of the show. Fair enough. Chef Roy Choi was amazing, made me laugh, really like seeing him cook, would definitely watch his cook show. Some of them seem to have great personalities. I would very much like to hear more about them, but sadly got eclipsed by Meghan. About the show, what a waste of time. Literally learned nothing. And others go on to say pointless, jointless, exercise in narcissism, and various other things. And that is a really interesting point because the way that she comes across a lot in here is she's absolutely obsessed with herself. Everything is about her, very little about the guests. She doesn't ask about the guests. And a lot of what she says sometimes, I get the sense that she's saying what she thinks is a really great thing to say, but is not necessarily true. And she's got this stare about her guest when she says something, and she has this direct stare. Now, some people are very easy to read when they are saying something untrue. They fidget, they move around, they look down a lot, they blink a lot. They do lots of different body language combinations that just make them look a little bit dishonest or disingenuous. And sometimes people are very, very difficult to spot when they are being untruthful. Now, as I say, I'm not saying definitively that she's being untruthful here, but I get the impression that that is the case sometimes. And when she does that, in my view, when she's doing that, she has this direct stare about the guest, and she'll say something, almost making the guest feel uncomfortable. And so they sort of have to believe what she says because the stare makes it so. So it's really bizarre. I found that bizarre. Now, in a moment, I'm going to dive into my list of things I have to say about this. And it's extensive. And a couple of reasons why I think Meghan could, in fact, be sued for this show. Don't go away. Now, just very quickly, one thing I've been really concerned about just lately is what I've been reading about the government setting up artificial intelligence to scour and monitor the internet, looking for what they consider to be concerning activity or posts or comments and things of this nature. And they create lists of people that they want to target and investigate because they are worried about what you're saying online. In case you say something that sort of labels you and stereotypes you as a certain kind of person that they then want to further investigate. Well, if you are worried about being monitored in this way and you don't want to be monitored, there are ways to stay anonymous. And that is why I am very pleased to partner with NordVPN on my channel, as I have done for some time. They keep no logs and no records of what you do and what you visit when you're online. And particularly when you're out and about in public Wi-Fi networks, it will keep your devices secure from third-party hackers as well. And recently, and this is really interesting, some networks and apps and services and so on are trying to restrict traffic that comes from a virtual private network, such as NordVPN. But NordVPN has recently released a new protocol called Nord Whisper, which will not only disguise your internet traffic as being anonymous, but it will also disguise the fact that it's coming from a VPN in the first place, thus keeping you protected and secure even when the network or the app is trying to restrict such traffic. So if you've been in the position before or you've not signed up to NordVPN because you're worried about certain apps blocking VPN traffic, well then you're in luck and it's time to subscribe with my discount below because Nord Whisper is designed specifically to overcome these situations that are ordinarily blocking VPN traffic. And as a partner to my channel here, you can get 4 months extra free on top of any plan, along with your 30-day money-back guarantee using the URL nordvpn.com/blackbeltsecrets to apply the discount for you. Then immediately you can download it on all your devices and protect them whether you're at home or out and about. And I cannot stress enough that you should not be connecting to a public Wi-Fi network without some layer of protection. It will protect your devices from third-party hackers and you will know that your traffic is encrypted and secure. So check out nordvpn.com/blackbeltsecrets for your 4 months free, and the peace of mind is absolutely worth every single penny. Right, let's continue, but I'm going to show you some positive coverage first, because I like to be balanced. Let's have a look at what some of the more positive headlines say here. This one from BuzzFeed, showing their colours, says, "Sorry, Meghan Markle haters. With love, Meghan proves that she officially got the last laugh." I'm not quite so sure about that. Have you read the reviews? Because the reviews tell a different story. Now, let's take a quick look here. It says at the start of 2016, Meghan Markle was thriving. Then 35 years old, the star was enjoying a successful acting career in the hit TV series Suits. Now, I know a lot of you have got different views about the series. I personally liked it. I thought she had a successful role in that. I thought the series was great. A lot of you don't like it. I know that, but many of you do like it. It inspired a lot of people to become lawyers. So I think it was a great show. I think she had a great role in that, to be absolutely fair, and I think that was a successful role. I genuinely do. Moving on, people.com, Meghan Markle's Netflix show ratings are in, and so are the recipes, and here's where to find them. So this is now purporting to show that these recipes will be available. I can't see people rushing to buy the recipes, all the ingredients for that matter, but by the by. They say love might be the secret ingredient to what Meghan Markle makes in her new Netflix series, but the streamer is divulging the instructions for what she cooked and crafted. The Duchess of Sussex lifestyle with Love Meghan premiered on March the 4th and has held a spot on Netflix top 10 since, inspiring fans to try their hands things she highlighted in a one-pot pasta, preparing preserves and arranging flowers. Now, I don't like to be uncharitable, but I suspect the reason it's in the top 10 is that people are watching it out of pure car crash TV entertainment, to be perfectly honest. And not least of which, they might be looking to see whether the arguments are true that she may have, not saying she has, but it may be that she's copied Pamela Anderson's show. If you Google it and see some previews of her show, you'll probably see the similarities there, because Pamela's show aired first, and a lot of people are saying that the structure is near identical, the way they bring on guests, the style of cooking and going outside and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of it is just near identical, and even down to the name of the show, because Pamela Anderson's show was called Pamela's Cooking with Love, and Meghan Markle's With Love Meghan. Really bizarre. Anyway, but the similarities are uncanny. If I were being uncharitable, I would say that it's a bit of a rip-off design. I'm not saying that that's what's happened. It just certainly looks like it. So let's get to my bullet point list. Now, I've got one sort of overarching bullet point for the whole thing, and that is that the whole thing, to me, if I could describe it in one word, it would be fake. Down to the fact that it's not her home. It appears that the people there as guests are not her friends, even though they are being portrayed as her friends, many of whom, well, she seems surprised in certain things that they said. Even the one lady, she was surprised at how tall she was. She remarked, "Wow, you're tall," like it's that she's seen her for the first time. The other guy she invited, I think it's one of the first guys, Daniel, I remember his name because it's my name, her makeup artist. Now, she may have known him for some time, but that doesn't necessarily make them friends, and certainly not close friends. Now, it seems that she didn't realize that he's left-handed. Now, that is something you'd probably know about your best friend, particularly if your best friend was doing your makeup and they were with you for some time. I think that's just something that you would know. And so this seems that the whole thing, it's like they had a transactional arrangement, that they were there to be part of the show. They were there to sort of perform, and I think the whole thing felt like it was performed. But also there wasn't any real connection between her and the guests. Like if it was a genuine fly on the wall scenario of somebody having their real friends to their, well, it wasn't her home, but to their home, or even to their fake home for the weekend while they're filming this thing, even if it was a weekend place and it was a real fly on the wall situation with your real friends coming around, it would be much more cozy and much more genuine interaction. And so many interactions were really sort of forced or false and awkward. Many of them were awkward. I mean, also, on my bullet points here, correcting one of her guests, Mindy, I think, when she mispronounced Le Creuset, and I think she pronounced it with a T at the end, which is, it's a common mistake. But again, you don't correct your friends or guests or whatever, if you're having friends around. It just came across as a bit rude and condescending. But Mindy, to her credit, comes straight back and says, well, some of us have been to Europe. Like, it's a real sort of quip back. And it's the kind of thing that someone says when they don't quite feel comfortable about what's been said, so they come back with something. And that's genuinely how that felt. Now, there's also the music. Geez, the music all the way through. It's overbearing, it's overpowering, and I can't imagine how much they've spent on licenses for this, because some of you may not realize that you can't just play whatever music you like in a program. You need permission, and that's usually by way of a license, which means you pay for it. Some of them might just let you do it if they're friends of yours or they're trying to get themselves promoted or whatever. I know Casey Neistat used a lot of great music from up-and-coming artists, and they let him use the music. He made great videos with it. It made their music popular, and that was a great sort of synergy between them. But then with all-time hits that are already really popular music, they need licensing. They need to pay for those. And the more you use, the more you pay. So some licensing deals will be a flat fee regardless of how much of the music you use. Some of it will be, well, it depends how much how long you play it for, how much of the piece you use. And so some of these, and also whether it's the really recognizable bit. If it's background music, that might be different. If it's the really recognizable bit, that might be attract a different price for the licensing and so on. And so there's so much of it, but it's also the way it's introduced. It's so cringe. Like she's stirring sugar and she's said something like, cue the Archies or something, sugar, sugar, the song. And all the way through, the music just doesn't really play well with the scenery. It seems to me so forced and so fake, like the music is trying to make something happen here that really just doesn't work. It just doesn't play the part. So sometimes music will kick in and it's just perfect. If you want to watch something that absolutely nails music to what you're watching, just check out Casey Neistat's vlogs. It's absolutely genius the way he seamlessly draws you in with the music, plays with the music, and times what you see with the music. It just works. And then we come to the real irony of this whole thing. The whole thing is designed to come across as being completely relatable, something that everybody can sort of, like they can take it away and enjoy it themselves. They can replicate what she's doing and they can do what she's doing. But the time, the hours, and the access to materials such as the beehive in the garden that people don't have. I was watching a few other pieces about this, and one of the things I found hilarious. I don't find it hilarious to kill bees, but one thing that someone said was when they looked up. I think it was Megyn Kelly said that when she looked up, local beehive to see whether you could actually go to a beehive locally near you to find bees to go and get real honey. What turns up is how to kill bees, or the people that are come and get rid of bees. Now, obviously, I'm not a fan of killing bees. I love bees, and if ever you've got a problem with bees, go to the humane people that come and remove them and move them somewhere else humanely and rehome them as opposed to killing them. I'm not a fan of killing anything, certainly not bees. But this, again, the irony that this whole thing was scripted, designed, and slammed together to shove in your face as something relatable, which is totally unrelatable to the majority of people. This really is catering to the 1%, the people that work for them, that have the time, hours to spend doing all of this stuff. She says at one point, so cringe, at one point she says, mornings are fast, so I'm comfortable with this pace. And she's walking around, strutting around, doing breakfast like this huge fruit platter, cutting 7 or 8 fruits. And some of it I just don't buy. Like she said that she prepared this the day before. There's a whole board of fruit, freshly chopped. I'll come back to the chopping in a minute, but freshly chopped fruit on the board. She said she prepared it the day before. Now, I don't know about you, but anytime I cut fruit, it seems like within 2 minutes, it starts to go bad, even though we buy good quality fruit. And so I suppose the more organic it is, the less preservatives and chemicals and whatever. So it does tend to go bad. So there's no way that was prepared the day before. That would all be going brown by now if that was prepared the day before. So I don't buy that. But then the chopping of the knife, she's got the finger on the top of the knife and she's holding the handle way back here. I would do it for you, but I don't have a knife with me. All my knives are in there. Let's take this screwdriver for a moment. Let's say that this is a knife. Let's say that bit's the blade and this is obviously the handle. She's holding it back here, not sort of up here where you would do pictures as a knife. You would normally hold it up here and get a good control of the knife here as a proper chef would, and fold your fingers back for the chopping like this. She's holding her fingers out. She's holding, let's find something. Let's say this is a carrot. She's holding it here with her fingers out, and she's got her finger here and she's chopping it like this. And it's just bizarre. It strikes me as she's never cooked before. It's almost like the week before she had a bit of a practice and then she came in to film this thing. It's just bizarre, the whole thing. And so it comes across like She's trying to teach you how to do something that she admits she's either learnt recently, which to me says earlier that day or the day before or the week before. But she's trying to teach you how to do something that she's never done before. So, like, for example, she at one point, she makes a focaccia. Now, I've tried making focaccia, and I'm good at following instructions. I'm kind of handy. I do a lot of cooking. I wouldn't say I'm an expert chef by any means, but I'm reasonably good. I know my way around the kitchen. I can do a fair few things. I've tried doing various breads, and whilst my family say that the bread was good, to me, it didn't come out right. It wasn't. I've got a friend who makes, if he watches this, he'll know who he is. James, hi. He makes fantastic focaccia, is absolutely to die for. And so I've tried making this focaccia with his recipe, and it doesn't come out the same. It's just not the same. And so for someone to, Megan, this is to make a focaccia and to say that this is, I think, is the first time, you know, I'd say correct me if I'm wrong, go and watch it, but I wouldn't recommend it. But I think she said it's the first time, if not the first time, one of the first times that she's made this. And it comes out beautifully out of the oven, just absolutely perfect. That doesn't happen when you make this bread for the first time. That doesn't happen. Like I said, I can follow instructions. I can follow guidance. I'm good at doing this kind of stuff. Generally, that doesn't happen on your first attempt or your second attempt, even your third or fourth. It takes some time to get it right. The time that you leave it to rise and the kneading and the folding and all this sort of stuff, it takes practice. All of this stuff takes practice. So the entire irony of her trying to teach you something that it appears to me that she's just learned to do herself. Really bizarre. And she's come under some criticism. I promised you I'd come back to something that she might actually be in trouble for. She's come under criticism. I'm going to try and find the article for you, but she came under criticism about potentially being sued for the recommendation that she had on the bathing salts. So it's really bizarre. She said that she's making this gift basket or guest basket, and in it she's putting these salt mixture, these bathing salts, and it's a mixture of Epsom salt, Himalayan salt, arnica oil, and lavender oil. And health experts have said that the combination and, in fact, the mix is hilarious because she said that she wants to get the mix right, put it in a jar, but that it doesn't even half fill the jar, so she just dumps a whole load of other pure salt in there to make up the jar. So it kind of, what's the point in mixing it to specific mix in the first place? And then the experts have said, don't do this at home. Health experts here have warned that users, if they copy what she's done on this program, could damage or even burn users' skin. So there's a very real possibility of a lawsuit here, not just because it appears that she may have copied Pamela Anderson's show, although I think they're taking it in good stride. They're saying, you know, it's the kind of, you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery kind of approach to it. They're being quite humble and saying it's nice to see that we've inspired people. So I don't think there's a problem there. But if people watching this think that's a great idea, let's do that, and they mix all these salts together in exactly the same way and go take a bath with it, they could be burnt head to toe, according to these experts. And then they could well have a claim against her for the mixture that she's telling people to do. Because there is a duty of care if you're doing a show like this and you're telling someone that this is a great thing to do and they go and do it, then there is that duty of care when you put out a show like this. So there's a huge concern, huge red flag there. And what else? Not just about the timing and everything else, but the change of clothes, and there's no apron. And all the clothes are bright white while she's doing tomato stuff and cooking with different things, and none of the clothes ever seem to get even the smallest splash of something on there. And a couple of other things. Daniel from, I think, the first episode, he tastes one of the preserves or jams or whatever, and she says that's okay, but it's really forced. And it seems to me she's actually quite upset that he's taken a spoon to the jar and tasted it. Now, many people might be upset by that, but, you know, if it's a guest and they're there for cooking and the experience, you can't really complain about that. But she definitely doesn't seem happy about that. And speaking of guests, and the final thing I'll leave you with before I bore you to tears is it seems to me, now I picked up this from the Megyn Kelly show as well, but it seems to me, having watched it, there are definitive edits. Now, one scene I've mentioned when she corrected Mindy about Le Creuset, I think they cut out the bit where she actually corrected her, because she mentions it and then there's a chop and the conversation continues where Mindy says, oh, Le Creuset, it's pronounced like that. But I think they chopped out where Megyn actually corrected her. And I think that probably came out a lot more harshly than they would have liked, so they chopped it out. But they left in the interaction where she's been corrected and confirming that that's the correct way to pronounce it. And Megyn confirms, yes, Le Creuset, that's how you pronounce it. But I think they chopped out the bit where she actually corrected her how to say it. But also, speaking of edits, I get the sense that there's quite a few voiceovers dumped in. And you wouldn't notice these unless you spent any time editing. Now, again, I'm no genius editor. I'm certainly not a film producer or anything else, but I make a gaffe now and again when I'm filming and editing and whatever. And in my very rudimentary filming and editing here, particularly when you'll see sometimes few secrets here, since we're on secrets, make sure you subscribe for more secrets, but we're on secrets here. Sometimes when I edit, for a while I use two cameras. I don't have the two cameras set up at the moment, but that's really useful because if I have two cameras set up, I can look to this camera, I can look to that camera, look back to this camera. And if I struggle to know what to say next, because I make it up most of the time, but if I struggle for what to say next, or I say something and then I want to change what I've said or say it a different way, I will look at this camera and it'll be that camera that I'm going to use, and I'll look to that camera so that I then have that camera picking up that scene, if you like, and I chop between them. So it looks like, so imagine I'm looking to that camera and the next scene starts and this is what I'm going to say next. And so I look towards this camera as I'm saying the next thing. So you can hide edits in a number of ways. Another way you can hide edits is by showing a pop-up, an image on screen. And so if you've got two videos slammed together, but you don't want the hard chop between them, you just put an image over the top and it's not as obvious then that there's an edit between them. But another good way of doing it is on a scene change, you can have a voiceover over the top. You can have a bit of B-roll and you can do a voiceover over the top. So let's say that the B-roll, let's say, is just of my mug or something sitting here. Let's say this is sitting on a desk and you can't see me talking. But if I then say, and then what we did next was, and then the next scene is obviously me, and then I carry on talking, you don't know that it wasn't really me saying that because you're looking at B-roll, and you'll know it when the people are in the background. It's like a low-down image of the countertop or something like that, and it's picturing them in the background. And you might get this voiceover. Now, there's one or two voiceover, and the reason I'm explaining all that is as follows. She doesn't seem to ask anything about her guests. It's all very much me, me, me. I'm the important one. I'm the star of the show, which is evident from the end of the show with her name, Megyn, Duchess of Sussex, which I'll come back to in a minute. Important thing about the name. But she never really seems to ask anything about the guests. And so I think, personal opinion alert, I think the producers have said, well, we're watching this back. We're doing the edit. Doesn't really seem like you're interested in the guests. Maybe it would be, when I think it was Daniel in one case, and there was a couple about childhood instances. What did you used to do as a kid? I think was one of them. And it seems to me that the producers might have said, it doesn't really seem like you're interested in the guests that much. It might be nice if you asked them what they did or what they like to do. Ask something about them, and then what they said would be the perfect answer to that question. And this is it happens far more than you will believe. You might get an interview sometimes where the answers are sort of in response to someone asking the question in a completely different setting. And then when actually they produce it, someone asks the question in a very scripted and full and formal way, and they slam the two together. And the answer obviously seems like a perfect answer to the question that would have been asked, but it's been asked in a different way. And so you slam them together. You don't know because why would you know? You wouldn't know. And so when they put this voiceover on top of some B-roll or a scene change, it seems to me that she's done this voiceover to make it seem like she's interested in what the guests had to say, which I think, again, is a bit disingenuous. It's a trick of the trade of editing and all that sort of stuff, but I think it lends to the way this has been produced with not really being interested in what the guests are doing and saying. And finally, on the self-important bit, it's going to be an infamous phrase now where she says, "You keep calling me Meghan Markle. Don't you know I'm Sussex now?" Which is false, by the way. The family name is not Sussex. That is a title. It's Duchess of Sussex, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. And she has that title because she's married to Prince Harry, who became the Duke of Sussex. So she is the Duchess of Sussex. The family name is the family name. Mountbatten Windsor is the family name, not Sussex. So there's an interesting thing. And at the end of it, she... despite wanting the private life and everything else and stepping away from the titles, etc., obviously it finishes with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, at the end of it. So those are my thoughts about that. I'm not hating on Meghan. I think overall, what I would say is at least she's doing something productive and creative and trying to do something here for herself rather than relying on anybody else. But I would also say at the same time, it does feel like she's very heavily leaning on those titles, leaning on the connection, leaning on the fact that she is married to Prince Harry to try and promote this, and then as a new brand, a rebrand, and then new products and so on. Those are my thoughts. In case you didn't watch it, that's my impression of it. If you're interested in my impression, if you're still watching, well done. Thanks for staying with me. But leave me your thoughts and comments below. If you've watched it, let me know if you agree. If you disagree, equally happy to hear your thoughts as well. Let me know your thoughts. Let me have your comments. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. You get my secrets here. And as always, thank you for watching.